AITA for strategically using a legal loophole right after winning the lottery to divorce my cheating wife without losing a cent of the jackpot. Hello Reddit, I need to know if the relief I feel makes me a calculating monster or just a man protecting himself. The facts are brutal, but necessary. I'm 45M for 18 years, I was married to Eliza. 44F our relationship had recently become a sterile, cold arrangement. The spark vanished a long time ago. I lacked the courage to end things, instead settling into a stagnant routine, afraid of the upheaval a divorce would cause. 3 weeks ago, that routine shattered. My regular lottery numbers hit the mega millions for $187 million after taxes as a lump sum. I stared at the ticket, not feeling joy, but pure terrifying dread, knowing this massive windfall would immediately be entangled in my decaying marriage. That night, before speaking a word of the win, I did something I'd meant to do for weeks. Check an old shared cloud account for an obscure document. What I actually found were months of private messages between Eliza and her tennis instructor. It wasn't just a physical affair, it was an emotional one, complete with planning a future that did not include me. The betrayal was complete. She had been actively planning to leave, completely unconcerned about my well-being. The rage was immediate, yet icy. I realized the timing was either catastrophe or a miracle. She was poised to abandon me and take half of my fortune. I didn't hesitate. I found the most aggressive, legally astute family lawyer in the state, Mr. Thorne, before the sun rose the next morning. My first instruction: secure the money. Mr. Thorne confirmed my worst fear and my best opportunity. Lottery winnings from a ticket purchased during a marriage are generally marital property. However, our state laws define the cessation of asset accumulation at the moment of legal and physical separation, not the date the divorce papers are filed. The ticket was bought before separation, but the $187 million prize money itself was not acquired and claimed until after. This was the razor's edge we had to walk. We moved with stunning speed and silence. Within hours, Mr. Thorne had a legally binding declaration of separation drafted. This document meticulously detailed the moment the marital community and shared finances ended. A private process server delivered it to Eliza at her job, ensuring she was served before she returned home and before any possibility of me tipping my hand. Simultaneously, I moved into a pre-leased, anonymous studio apartment, a place with no connection to our marriage. I had time-stamped proof of the lease signing and utility transfer. Legal separation was established in fact and in law that day. 3 days later, with separation undeniably secure, I claimed the prize. The winnings were directed into a sophisticated legal trust, completely shielded and documented as assets acquired post-separation. Yesterday, Eliza was served with divorce papers. She saw the standard division of our house equity and old retirement funds, which was fine. Then she saw the financial disclosure, which had an attachment clearly labeled: asset acquired post-separation, Trust XYZ, value $187 million. She is completely unhinged. She called me, screaming that I was an evil, calculating monster who engineered the timing to spite her. She is claiming the funds were a shared contribution because the ticket was purchased with joint funds before the separation papers. My lawyer simply stated that the law is clear. The acquisition of the value happened after the marital community legally ended. Her infidelity wasn't the legal cause for keeping the money, but it was absolutely the motive for my flawless execution of the law. I prevented a greedy, unfaithful person from walking away with a fortune meant for my future. So Reddit was my meticulous, cold-blooded timing and legal maneuver and a whole move, even if I was protecting my life's fortune from someone who was actively betraying me. Update 1. I am overwhelmed by the response. Thank you, Reddit, for providing the necessary validation and the complex legal arguments. The majority leans NTA, arguing her infidelity forfeited any moral right to the windfall, especially given the clear legal strategy. The situation has now escalated from family drama to legal spectacle. Her lawyer, a tired-looking public defender she somehow convinced to take a small percentage of a speculative win, filed a motion arguing the lottery ticket was an asset acquired during the marriage, and its subsequent validation must be included in the Marshall pool. The filing suggests I fraudulently orchestrated the timeline to evade financial responsibility, and claims the infidelity is a desperate attempt to defame her character. Mr. Thorne was ready. He filed a swift, brutal response. The filing contained a few key points. He submitted irrefutable documentation, showing every step I took aligned perfectly with the legal definition of date of separation. The lease agreement, the utility transfer, and the notarized declaration were all dated before the prize was claimed by the trust. The filing pointed out that I fully disclosed the asset. If I were committing fraud, I would have hidden the winnings entirely, like many spouses attempt. My compliance proves I am following the letter of the law. This was the crucial part. Mr. Thorne argued that by having an ongoing, secretive affair, Eliza had already unilaterally dissolved the joint endeavor of the marriage long before the win. She cannot claim the rewards of a partnership she had already emotionally abandoned. Eliza's lawyer is now pushing for an emergency hearing, demanding a freeze on the trust funds. This is a delaying tactic. The atmosphere at home, where I haven't been in weeks, thank God, is reportedly toxic. My former mother-in-law even called my office, leaving a tearful message about how money has ruined my soul. I'm focusing on the legal maneuvers, shutting down the emotional noise. The fact that the court seems to be favoring my documentation feels like a victory for preparation and cold logic. Update 2. The emergency hearing was cancelled. The judge denied Eliza's motion to freeze the trust, citing insufficient grounds to overturn the clear documentation establishing the separation date. My lawyer described her position as structurally unsound. However, Eliza's lawyer has been relentless, demanding a deep dive into my finances, trying to prove I spent marital funds on the ticket with the intent to exclude her. It was noise, but time-consuming noise. Then the final piece of evidence landed in my lap, unrelated to the lottery, but a nuclear bomb for her case. Remember how she flew her tennis instructor, Gabe, to a conference last month? It turns out my late father, a meticulous man who was often concerned about my financial passivity, had installed a highly discreet, low-power GPS tracker in our family car years ago, telling me it was for theft recovery. I completely forgot about it until reviewing old documents during the divorce preparation. The car, which Eliza claims she used to run errands for the marital home during that conference, was parked at Gabe's apartment complex, 200 miles away from the conference location, for 5 continuous days. My lawyer, a man who rarely smiles, almost laughed when he saw the data. This wasn't about the lottery, this was about the character of the marriage. He amended the divorce petition, introducing the GPS evidence. His argument: Eliza has not only engaged in gross marital misconduct, but she has actively perjured herself in initial filings by misrepresenting her activities. This evidence refutes her claim that she was a faithful partner contributing to the marital endeavor at the time of the win. Crucially, while fault, like cheating, doesn't guarantee a spouse loses their share of marital property in this state, Eliza's pattern of dishonesty and deception now poisons her entire case. The judge can, and often does, take intentional financial deception and perjury into account when making an equitable distribution of non-contested assets. Her attempt to cast me as the manipulator is now undermined by irrefutable proof that she was the deceptive party. Her credibility in court is now functionally zero. This shifts the focus entirely away from the lottery. Now the battle is over the small assets, the house, the savings, and she has just gifted the court justification to award me a disproportionately large share of those based on her misconduct and lies. It's beautiful, cold, and legally devastating for her. Final update. The case did not go to trial. The GPS tracker evidence proved to be the ultimate checkmate. Eliza's lawyer knew instantly that arguing her position in front of a judge, given the proven track record of deceit, would be disastrous. Not only was the lottery money safe, but she stood to lose everything else she was claiming. Mr. Thorne leveraged the evidence to force a settlement. The final agreement included: the $187 million trust remains entirely my separate property. This was non-negotiable and legally sound. The sale of the marital home was agreed upon. I received 70% of the equity, while she received 30%, a highly favorable, but equitable, split given the evidence of her marital misconduct and subsequent perjury. No alimony, spousal support, was granted to Eliza. Her proven deception and the lack of a substantial health or income disparity, she is fully employed, made her request for support impossible to justify. Within 48 hours, the final decree was signed. It was over. The silence is the most shocking part. Eliza has disappeared from my life. She's been ostracized by many of her own friends who saw the overwhelming evidence of her deception on the public record. Her financial reality is harsh. She left a marriage that was about to be worth almost $200 million and walked away with a modest sum, exactly what she deserved. I used the money to quietly relocate, start a foundation dedicated to a cause important to me, and finally hire a team to manage the money so I can just live. My life is irrevocably changed. I am wealthy, divorced, and ethically satisfied. Was I the whole? Reddit largely said no, a sentiment the court's final ruling seemed to echo. I didn't destroy her life. I merely ensured she couldn't benefit from the destruction of mine. I just won the game she started, using the rules she pretended to follow. I'm no longer the timid husband. I am a man who protected his future, and that feels like the real jackpot.